retired U.S. Army Major General William Enyart. General, so great to see you again. So we know that Trump and NATO Secretary General historically do have a good relationship. Does the U.S. still need this alliance? What value does NATO hold for President Trump?
Good morning, Nicole. You know, the question really is, does the United States need stability and peace in Central and Western Europe? Another question is, if you think NATO is expensive, how expensive would it be to have to fight a war without NATO? You know, NATO supported us entirely after 9/11. NATO countries sent troops to Iraq and to Afghanistan and fought side by side with us for 20 years. So they have been consistent, steadfast allies. As for what Trump wants, you're going to ask Mr. President Trump what he wants. But clearly, the U.S. built NATO. We were the big dog on the block. We wanted to be the big dog on the block, and we still are the big dog on the block. That has led to our world presence as the leading power in the world. And NATO has certainly supported us in that. As for the 5% GDP spending rate for defense, the United States doesn't spend that. We spend somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5% of our GDP. So Trump is demanding that NATO countries spend, 60% more than we do. So I question whether that's fair. You know, in terms of what the U.S. Actually spends on NATO, in terms of the central budget, the administrative budget for NATO, we spend the same amount as Germany does. We provide about 16% of the budget, and Germany provides about 16% of the budget. So we, of course, have the largest military force in NATO, and that's because, as I said, we want to be the big dog, and we have worldwide responsibilities, whereas NATO countries, by and large, do not.
All right. So, General, as you've said there, reiterated, basically, we know the U.S. is the biggest contributor to NATO. I'd like to listen to some of what the president has said about NATO when it comes to trade.
I view NATO as potentially good, but you gotta get some good thinking in NATO. It's very unfair what's been happening. Until I came along, we were paying close to 100% of NATO. So think of it. We're paying 100% of their military, and they're screwing us on trade.
All right. So, General, what's your reaction here? Because, again, we know the U.S. wants to be the big dog there, as you say, but does the president have a point?
He absolutely does not have a point because he doesn't have his facts right. It helps to have your facts correct when you're making statements like that. You know, first of all, NATO buys the biggest bulk of their military equipment from where? From the United States of America. They fly F-16s, they fly F-35s, they fly C-130s, they fly F-35s. So, their refuelers are KC-135s. So let's be honest about this. Even the money that goes to NATO and the money that NATO spends back comes right back to us in terms of arms purchases. So his statement that NATO gets 100% of the money from the United States is quite frankly wrong.
All right, so let's listen, General, to some of what the NATO Secretary General has said about NATO and the U.S.
Our mindset has to be that we are willing to protect every inch of NATO territory. If we would stick to the 2%, we cannot defend ourselves in 4 or 5 years. We have to spend more.
All right. So we know that there is, kind of this back and forth now when it comes to NATO. Do you think we will see some type of change?
Oh, I think unquestionably there's going to be change. There's already been dramatic change. There was just a summit that President Macron held in France, to which the United States did not attend, talking about building a European army without the assistance of the U.S., without the participation of the U.S. And that, in all likelihood, is going to happen. There are already very strong ties between the NATO countries, and I think that's going to continue to grow. Particularly, I think NATO does have some time or the NATO countries absent the U.S. does have some time to build a military force. The Russian army is vastly depleted. There are about 1 million casualties, killed and wounded. So that army has been very depleted and was unable to conquer Ukraine. Has really been stalemated by a country a fifth its size. I think it would take Russia, if the war ended tomorrow, it would take Russia probably 3 to 5 years to reconstitute its forces to the point where it would be a credible threat to the EU or the European Union. It could attack some of the smaller, very eastern countries, the Baltics, but a direct attack on the EU, I think, is beyond their capabilities at this point.
And I want to ask you really quickly, Major General, about some breaking news. We're just learning that Vladimir Putin is now reportedly saying he agrees in principle with this U.S. proposal for the 30-day ceasefire in the war between Russia and Ukraine. Reaction to that, do you think now this does proceed and move forward?
Well, I think it may, but how long can you trust Putin? I wouldn't trust him from here to 10 minutes from now. He will use any peace deal to reconstitute his forces and develop a new attack plan and attack. He's proven that over the last 10 years, 11 years. Every peace agreement that's been reached, and in fact, it goes back further than that. It goes back to '93 when the U.S. and Russia guaranteed Ukraine's sovereignty. So Putin is a long-standing breaker of deals, and this will be no different.
All right, Major General William Enyart, always great to speak with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole.